Welcome to our channel Behind My Story. Please like, share and subscribe.
Our feelings are always hard to control. We are humans after all. Sometimes we do things we can't explain, just because we feel that way. I had a student named Daniel, a sweet and innocent child. I was prepared to do anything for him, but don't judge me just yet. First, let me tell you my story. My name is Jolene. I'm a 21-year-old math teacher at a primary school. I live with my sister and my mother. My house was next to the school where I work. I love teaching, and I like teaching the students in creative ways. They loved me, and I loved them. Daniel was a special student, though. Our story began at the start of the new year. It was the first day of school. I missed all my students over the summer break. I missed them so much that I stood by the door to welcome them back. Before I started my first lesson, Mr. Smith, the student affairs officer, knocked on the class door, with Daniel hiding behind his back. Mr. Smith greeted the class and asked them to greet Daniel, but Daniel was too shy and didn't move. So I went over to him to take him by the hand, but he pulled his hand away, which embarrassed Mr. Smith. I asked him to greet his classmates, so he went and he stood in front of the class and he said, "Hello, I am Daniel." Then he went and he sat at the very back of the class. He didn't talk much with the other kids. He didn't like to interact with anyone. Daniel always looked sad, and I thought to myself, he's only 8. What could possibly have made him that way? I tried to get close to him, but he resisted all my efforts. Sometimes he looked like he was hiding some big secret, and later on, I learned what it was. One night, when I was surfing the social media, I came across a horrible news story about a jealous husband killing his wife and another man right in front of his son. The child had been none other than my new student Daniel. Reading that sad story, I started understanding why Daniel was acting that way. I decided to try brightening his life a little. Every day, I would buy a small present and put it on his desk. At first, it had no effect, but slowly he came to love that. During break time, I would sit beside him and we would share food together. I would get him involved in class activities. On his birthday, I arranged a surprise party with his class, his grandmother, and myself. He was so happy that day. After the party, he hugged me and he told me that he loved me. I hugged him tightly. He was not just a student to me. I treated him like he was my own son. He told me that he wanted to call me mother, and that made me so happy. After his grandmother died, he came to live with me. We faced a lot of problems together, but I followed his success in life with pride. Daniel is all grown up now. He's graduating from the Faculty of Engineering. I am so proud of what he has made of himself.
If you look around at everything you have, your family, friends, your job, all these things could be considered blessings from God, especially if you are very successful in all aspects of your life. You should be very grateful and appreciate all these gifts, because if you take them for granted and then lose them, you will regret it deeply. Believe me, I know. And my story is how I know. My name is Chris. I am 39 years old and am a news presenter for a local TV channel. I grew up in a poor family. My dad was a low-paid laborer, and I had no desire to follow in his footsteps, so I decided to get a job in life as fast as possible to begin earning money early in life. I first worked as a grocery clerk in sales in a packaging plant. After that, I worked at a lot of different jobs, earning money to support my family and my studies. I earned good grades at my university in the Faculty of Mass Communications, so I would have a chance at getting my dream job of being a news presenter. And I succeeded. In my first job as a news presenter for a local TV channel, it was my duty to prepare programs. Being a news presenter had always been a dream of mine. I was young and wanted to be famous and well known as a TV personality. It was not as easy as I thought it would be, but I was finally able to eventually achieve my dream of becoming a famous news presenter. I was able to move my family into a bigger house. I married a girl whom I loved and with whom I had 2 children. My life was moving along smoothly in accordance with my plans in life. But fate doesn't like happy endings, it seems, and my life took a dark turn. Once I became famous, my work took more and more of my time and energy, and the added stress required to maintain that success at work began taking a toll on my personal life. I began losing interest in my family and started ignoring them, and my friends as well. Spending too much time at work caused me to miss important things in my life, like my kids' and my friends' birthdays, my wedding anniversary, time with my parents, and intimate time with my wife. Ignoring my wife and family caused many domestic arguments. These increased over time and began to affect my work. I even began ignoring Mom and Dad, causing my relationship with them to worsen as well. Dad blamed me for seeking luxury and fame at the expense of my family. It was hurtful to hear such criticism from Dad. Eventually, he and Mom decided to leave our new flat and return to the old one. My life was being turned upside down. I became so stressed out and irritable that friction with my wife and my kids caused my wife to threaten to leave me and take the kids with her. We ended up quarreling about this even, and I drove them away as well. Fame had improved my life up to a certain point, but was now destroying my life. As I saw it, I had two options: continue down this path and continue destroying my life, or accept that fate had given me a wake-up call, that I need to rethink my life and change course. Also at this time of deep contemplation, I began getting severe headaches, like migraine headaches that worsened day by day. A friend of mine recommended that I go see a doctor, so I took his advice. I went to a doctor who was quite well known, and he told me that I had a tumor in my brain. Woe is me. Was this downhill trend in my life ever going to stop? I guess not, because then he continued with more bad news. That I just had 30 days to live. I didn't know what to do. First, I called Dad. I knew that he was upset with me, as were my friends, wife, and kids. It seemed that I might be doomed to die alone. I began reminiscing about the good old days, when my nice home was filled with happiness and my children laughing, playing, and shouting. But now, it sat silent and empty. Having only 30 days to live, I felt that I needed to fix my life before it was too late. So I took action. I took a vacation from work and went to visit Mom and Dad. After hugging and talking to them, my eyes were filled with tears. Learning what I had given up in pursuit of success tore at my heartstrings. They asked about my health, and I concealed my condition and told them I was quite well. I apologized for my past bad behavior and promised them that I would change for the better. Dad forgave me because he didn't want to see me so sad and miserable, so I was able to reconcile with both of them. Mom asked about my wife and kids, and upon learning that they had left me, she said that I needed to reconcile with them too. I told her that I would do that I planned to fix everything. So I returned to our old home and was putting some flowers on the doorstep when my wife happened to open the door to find me there. I tearfully asked her to forgive me and to move back into our new home to live with me again. I promised them that making them happy would be my only purpose in life from that point forward. The strange thing is that I not only changed for the better, but I was even better than I was before things had gotten worse. I spent all my time with my parents, my family, and my friends. We met every week to gather fun and barbecue cookout parties. During my spiritual renaissance, my renewed enjoyment of life, my phone kept ringing a lot, but I figured it was just the doctor with more bad news, so I ignored it. Then one day, I gathered all the family together and told them the truth. That I was going to die very soon. It was a major shock to everyone. My wife fainted, and my parents and kids were all crying. Finally, I was ready to answer the numerous phone calls that had been coming in. They were from the lab. The lab technician informed me that they had mixed up my medical records with someone else's, and that person had died within the predicted 30 days. However, I was off the hook. They apologized profusely for their mistake and hung up. I was so ecstatic. If there's really a Cloud 9, then I was there. I walked outside and looked up at the clear blue sky with my eyes full of tears, basking in the warmth of the sun and savoring the cool breeze of life teasing at my hair and face. Fate had given me another chance, and I did not intend to waste it the second time around. I would live the rest of my life as if I only had 30 days to live.
Ever since I was a child, I adored horror movies, scary stories, old legends and myths. While most kids were into singers and actors and movie posters, I loved vampires, the one-eyed cyclops, everything related to horror and gore. Monster movies, thrillers, the supernatural, the mysterious, and the unexplained. Because these things only happened in movies. Or so I thought. But what if they were to happen in real life? Let me tell you a story where something like this happened in real life. My name is Marlene, and I'm 15 years old. Like I said, unlike the other kids, I loved horror movies, zombies, vampires, and ghosts. The only one who shared my taste was my brother Stan, an oddly stylish guy with a strange character. Nevertheless, I liked him. There are a lot of scary monsters, of course, but to me, the werewolf was the scariest of them all. A werewolf is an ordinary person who has been bitten by a werewolf, which in turn causes him to become one too. A werewolf looks like you and me, most of the time, but around the time of the full moon, that cursed person will transform into a monster, with a taste, or should I say thirst, for human blood. My parents had gone to visit some relatives and stay with them for Christmas holidays, but I stayed home because I wanted to spend that time with my friends. Stan stayed home with me for similar reasons. One night, he came home looking tired, and his hand was bleeding. When I asked him what had happened, he said that some wild dog had attacked him and bit him. I was worried that it might get infected without Mom here to cleanse and bandage it, but he assured me that he was okay. I cleaned it the best I could and put a light bandage around it. The next day was a cold day, but we played outside and had fun together with our friends. At the end of the day, Stan said that he was feeling tired and went straight to his room without saying another word. When I went inside, I could hear him crying in his room, so I went in and asked him if he was okay. Again, he said that he was fine, but I was thinking that maybe the bite on his hand wasn't from a dog, but from some rabid animal. That would have been really bad. Or maybe from a werewolf. That would be even worse. I began to worry and started watching him more closely, just to make sure he was okay. I noticed that he began hiding his hand in his jacket pockets, wearing sunglasses at night, and was always tired. I could tell that something wasn't right. Then, one night, I heard strange sounds coming from his room, so I hurried to him. "Stan, please tell me what's going on. Tell me the truth. What is wrong with you?" I asked. And he said, "Really, I'm okay. I'm just hungry. Do we have any meat?" Meat, I thought, as in bloody meat. Suddenly my imagination started running wild, and I began thinking to myself, oh my God, what if Stan was bitten by a werewolf? I checked the almanac and determined that the full moon was only 3 days away. I was scared out of my mind. What will happen if he changes when I'm here home alone? I felt like I was doomed to be killed by my own brother. I knew that the only way to kill a werewolf was with a silver bullet, or a silver dagger. But, 1, where could I find one of those? And 2, how could I kill my own brother? I must be losing my mind. My parents wouldn't be back for a week. Time passed, and the day of the full moon arrived. I knew I would have to face the person I loved the most in the world besides my parents, and either I would kill him, or he would kill me. It's a lose-lose situation. When my brother came home, he looked so strange. His eyes were darting around like a wolf, and he even smelled like one too. I pretended to be strong, but inside I was trembling, fearful of what this night might bring. I locked myself in my bedroom and waited for this night to pass quickly. I hoped. Then I heard Stan's door open, and I heard his light footsteps coming closer to my door. He knocked and asked if he could come in. Hesitantly, I opened the door. "Hi, Stan. Is there something you need?" I asked. and he said, "I'm so tired." Then I saw his skin turning a grayish color. He was clutching his stomach. The transformation was about to begin. He made a sound like a snarl. Saliva was drooling from his mouth. Fortunately, I was holding a silver kitchen knife. Thank God Mom had some real silverware. She had gotten out for the holiday dinner. I had gone by the church that day and asked the priest to bless a jar of water I brought with me, and I had dipped my silver knife in that blessed holy water just before I had opened the door to confront Stan. I was ready to pounce before he could. "Forgive me, dear brother," I said. Then I pulled the knife back and got ready to thrust it forward to stab him in the stomach. At that instant, Dad suddenly came in through the front door and saw us. Saw me with a knife in my hand, ready to run Stan through with it. "Marlene, what are you doing?" he asked. Staring at the knife in my hand, I shouted, "Dad, run! Stan is changing into a werewolf!" Then Stan unexpectedly fell down unconscious, looking very much human. Dad ran over to him and felt his forehead. "He has a fever," he said. "Look at his hand, Dad. He's been bitten by a werewolf," I cried. Dad looked at me as if I was crazy and said, "Nonsense, Marlene. It's just a dog bite." We took Stan to a doctor, who examined him and took some blood samples. He did indeed have rabies, also known as hydrophobia, I learned. I laughed, but then I told myself that this wasn't really funny. I almost convinced myself that my brother was a werewolf. If Dad had come a few seconds later, Stan might very well be dead by now. I was seconds away from murdering my own brother due to a runaway imagination. It's been 2 weeks now, and Stan has finished the shot treatment. He's getting better quickly. What about me, you ask? Well, I've stopped watching horror movies forever. Well, at least till next month. Have you ever dreamed of having some shocking surprise completely change your life? Whether the surprise is good or bad, your life will never be the same again. I have a story to tell you about this very thing. My name is Tiffany, and I'm 21 years old. I live with my parents and an occasional mystery guest, whose role in our lives I have yet to ascertain. I would see him from time to time. I assumed that he was some down-on-his-luck guy whom Dad helped once. Dad was wealthy and often donated money to help the poor. This mystery man would try to talk to me whenever he would spend a few days with us. I didn't understand why Dad allowed him to stay at our home sometimes. It was bizarre, and it did creep me out a little. There was one time when he opened the door to my room while I was sleeping. He sat on the bed next to me for a while and then left. I was half awake at the time, but I didn't move. When I told my parents about this, they said they would speak with him, but I'm not sure they ever did. I felt uneasy about the situation, so I decided to investigate this matter myself. I had to figure out who this mystery man was and why he stayed with us periodically. One day, Mom wasn't feeling well, and Dad drove her to the doctor's office to be checked out, leaving me home alone. I sneaked into the office to have a look around, see if I could find something about this strange man. While I was searching, I heard a voice behind me. I thought it was my parents, but it was the mystery man. He was smiling at me. It made me feel awkward. He said hi. I stepped back and said, "If you take one step closer, I'll scream." He said, "Calm down. You're suffering from an illness, and I need you to fight it for me and for your parents." "What are you talking about? I feel fine," I said. He said, "You don't recognize me. I'm your husband." Shocked, I grabbed the phone to call the police, but he stopped me. "Don't do that. I won't hurt you, but I won't leave either." I started screaming loudly. Just at that time, my parents returned and entered the study. I shouted for them to help me. Dad came over and hugged me. Then I felt a needle prick the back of my neck, and I lost consciousness. I woke up in a hospital bed, with my parents and my so-called husband beside me. I asked them what was going on. They told me that I must have been dreaming, that I had just woken up from a week-long coma, induced by a rare type of brain disease that damaged my long-term memory. My husband hugged me and told me that he loved me. If only I knew who he was.
Hi there. I'm Andrew and I'm 23 years old. I'm a student in a medical college. I'm studying to become a doctor because it's my lifelong dream to find a cure for cancer. I want to save people's lives from the scourge of this disease. This war became personal for me when my mom fell victim to it. Mom fainted one day, and we took her to a doctor who took some x-rays and diagnosed that she had lung cancer. Eventually, she succumbed to it and passed away. After that, I swore that I would find a cure for this hateful, evil curse on mankind. I began researching every book I could find on the subject, including old medical texts and foreign research papers and journals. One ancient tomb I perused mentioned a little-known, rare herb that grows high in the Himalayan mountains in China that was said to be able to reverse the effects of cancer damage. Heartened by this discovery, I set up a small expedition to go find said herb no matter the effort and no matter the cost. I completed my preparations and enlisted the help of one of my colleagues. The journey to the base of the mountains was tiring and difficult, and the trek up the mountainside was long and arduous. Once we reached the Tibetan plateau, we began searching for this rare, wondrous herb. We queried the members of a local nomadic tribe living there for clues. Luckily, their old shaman was familiar with the herb and told us where to look. Following his directions, we found it at long last. But finding it was only part of the battle. We returned home to my lab. I then had to see if I could extract a cure from it. The research and testing would take time, money, and effort. After months and months of experimentation and trials, suffering failure after failure, I ultimately achieved success by sheer persistence and luck. I formulated a cure for cancer in my lab. What a momentous day for humanity this was. I couldn't wait to publicize my findings in the medical journals and tell the world that cancer had finally been conquered. Then just 2 days later, I received a mysterious phone call from an unknown person with a gravelly voice who threatened me with death if I were to publicize my findings. I was shocked that someone would want to block a cure for cancer at the expense of millions of cancer deaths in the years to come. And so, here I stand in my lab, unafraid and unswayed. I will publish my findings, and I will let the world know about this miracle cure. If my life should prove to be the cost of saving posterity from the continuing ravages of cancer, then so be it. I will gladly pay that cost.